howl broke through the stillness, long and strangled, slicing across the cold mist of early dawn. It was a sound that came from no command, no reason, no warning. Terminal B, International Airport, 4:03 in the morning. Routine security inspection. The staff were exhausted. The scanners hummed quietly. Footsteps blended with the dragging sound of suitcase wheels across the stone floor. And then, everything stopped. Echo, a Belgian Malinois from the K9 unit, was walking alongside Lieutenant Liam on a standard patrol. The dog did not bark. It did not lunge. It just walked, fast, precise, and as silent as its own shadow. But the moment they reached checkpoint number 4, it froze. Its ears stood up straight, its pupils narrowed, its nose sniffed sharply, then stopped altogether. A second later, a growl escaped, deep and hoarse, as if echoing not from its throat, but from a memory. Everyone turned around. A woman stepped through the glass doors. She appeared to be pregnant, or at least looked that way. Petite, wrapped in a light gray scarf, her face bare of makeup. One hand cradled her belly, the other pulled a suitcase. When she saw Echo, she flinched slightly. Her eyes widened, then darted around as if unsure why she was drawing attention. Echo down. Lieutenant Liam gave the command. It was useless. Echo did not obey. Its eyes were wide, not with fear, but horror, as if it had just seen a death that was moving. The screen slowly dimmed. Words appeared, one line at a time, cold and slow. 72 hours before Flight 771, a secret had begun to make its first sound. The final line disappeared, and the screen faded to ash gray. The buzzing from the fluorescent lights in Terminal B became sharper, as if someone had drained all other sound from the world. The camera slowly pulled back, revealing Echo frozen in place. Its back slightly arched, all 4 legs braced tightly against the floor, its eyes locked on the woman's silent, rounded belly. This was not the posture of alert, but of confrontation. She was still speaking to a security officer, her pale face trying to stay calm. But Echo did not react to her voice, nor to her eyes. It was listening to something else. Liam stepped forward, frowning. He said nothing, just instinctively reached down and placed a hand on Echo's head. And that was when he realized his hand was resting on a creature that was trembling, not out of fear, but because it was facing something that no machine in this airport could ever detect. Echo stayed completely still. Its back remained arched as if coiled for defense, but its eyes no longer looked like those of a trained dog on duty. They looked like those of a wild animal dragged back by a traumatic memory to a place of death. Lieutenant Liam followed the line of Echo's gaze, and for the first time in many years, he realized he had no idea what he was looking at. The woman, there was nothing visibly unusual about her. She was thin, pale, and appeared to be about 8 months pregnant, judging by the shape of her belly. She said nothing other than apologizing for alarming everyone. Her voice was soft, so quiet you had to lean in just to hear it. Her identification documents were all in order: national ID card, round-trip boarding pass, and an ultrasound report, stamped by a maternity clinic in the state of Arizona. The document clearly stated 32 weeks gestation, fetal heartbeat, stable mother, in good health, cleared for flight. Echo did not care about the documents. It continued to growl. Maybe it was triggered by a scent. One of the security officers suggested, half skeptical, half trying to rationalize. Could be medication, perfume, or something that confused it. Echo does not get confused, Liam answered without hesitation. He knew this creature better than anyone. Echo had once saved his life during a hostage situation in the year 2019. It had also detected a bag of explosives hidden inside the air duct system of a crowded shopping mall. But the moment that had earned Liam's complete trust was when Echo did not charge at a suspect wielding a knife. Instead, it had clawed at the floor right above a pressure plate mine. A single misstep would have reduced the entire rapid response team to ash. Echo did not react like a predator. It reacted with something people call instinct, but for Echo, it was the voice of its very being. Liam stepped closer. He lowered his voice. "Echo, it is okay. It is okay." His hand reached out to touch its head, but Echo pulled away. It tilted its head, then turned again toward the woman's belly. No barking, no howling, just a quiet nose to the air and a dry metallic hiss like steel scraping across glass. Suddenly it stepped backward, not turning away but backing up straight and steady as if trying to protect itself from something no one else in the room could feel. Then it spun around and walked directly toward the maintenance sector. Echo, Liam called out, but it did not stop. He signaled to his team, "Do not let anyone leave this area, especially her. We already scanned her. Nothing suspicious." "The problem is not with the equipment," Liam said, his voice firm though his eyes softened. "The problem is with the creature." Inside the maintenance room where Echo led them, there was nothing but a row of lockers and a few containers of electronics equipment. Echo stopped in front of an air vent and began to scratch hard. "Is there something in there?" the technician asked, confused. Liam signaled to remove the vent cover. A thin layer of dust flew out. Inside it was just an empty ventilation shaft. But Echo would not stop. It kept staring inside, restless, breathing deeply then. It lay down, belly to the ground, legs stretched forward like it was guarding an invisible entrance. Liam leaned down and took a breath near the duct. He could smell nothing, but Echo could, and that alone made his skin crawl. Back at the checkpoint, the woman had been taken into a temporary medical room, not for examination, but for isolation until the situation was clarified. Echo stood right outside the glass door, eyes fixed on her, not blinking for even a moment. "We have completed all checks. No signs of explosives, no metals, no electromagnetic interference. She is not carrying anything unusual. Maybe she is just nervous." "What about the fetal heartbeat?" Liam asked. "Normal. 142 beats per minute. Steady." "Let me see the ultrasound," he said, holding the film up to the light. Everything appeared correct. The fetus was in the right position. No deformities, no abnormalities. But Echo continued to growl. Liam turned and saw the dog edging closer to the glass door. It did not scratch. It did not jump. It simply pressed its muzzle against the glass, letting out a faint hiss, as if trying to say something no human language could express. A doctor had been called in for a second opinion. He said, "She is fine. Heart rate is normal. The fetus is healthy. I do not see any cause for concern." "Then why is it reacting like that?" Liam asked, glancing at Echo. The doctor looked over and shook his head. "I cannot explain it. But if you want to be absolutely sure, you can request a blood test or amniotic fluid testing. That would require consent." She refused. Liam frowned. "Did she give a reason?" She said, "I am just trying to go home and have my baby. You are scaring me. I just want peace." Liam checked his watch. 4:47 in the morning. Her flight would take off in 1 hour and 13 minutes. He stood up. "Do not allow her to board that flight. Not until we have blood work and a full identity verification." A colleague furrowed his brow. "Liam, you have no hard evidence. She could sue you for discrimination." Liam did not respond. He simply leaned down and placed his hand on Echo's head. This time, Echo did not move. It nudged its snout into his palm and trembled. Not from cold, not from fear, but because it was trying to tell him whatever was inside that woman was not a child. 5:02 in the morning. The woman was moved into a private waiting room under surveillance. Liam sat on the other side of the glass, a few rows of seats away, eyes locked on her expression as she pretended to sleep. She did not cry. She did not resist. She did not ask why she was being held. She simply rested her hand on her belly in a steady rhythm, eyes closed, as if she were waiting for something or hiding something, waiting for it to activate. Liam picked up his phone and called the analysis center. I need a full verification of this woman's identity. Cross-check her passport photo, national ID, and every entry in our internal database. I want her full travel history, every route, every stop, even data from border checkpoints. He hung up and glanced over at Echo, who was still sitting watching the room completely still. But strangely, it was no longer growling. It just watched, silent, as if it no longer needed to issue a warning, because whatever needed warning had already appeared. A staff member came in. Fingerprint verification is back. It matches a woman named M. Delilah, United States citizen, resides in New Mexico. No criminal record. Works in home health care. Liam looked up. Do we have past images? We do. But they do not match. Do not match. Not in a strange way. The face is about 60% similar, but bone structure, nose, forehead. Everything has been altered. Plastic surgery, possibly. Or someone else entirely using a stolen identity. Liam fell silent. His hand unconsciously reached his knee where an old scar had rested quietly since a bombing 3 years ago. Echo had pulled him away from a landmine less than 1 meter away. He had not seen the mine, but Echo had felt it. And now Echo was staring at that woman's belly with the exact same look as that day. The loudspeaker came on. Passengers of Flight 771. Please proceed to the boarding gate in 45 minutes. A faint moan came from the medical room. Liam stood up. Echo followed instantly. The woman sat upright, gasping, clutching her belly. A nurse rushed in and asked, "Are you in pain? Do you need oxygen?" She shook her head, voice faint. "I just felt something moving faster than usual." "What did you say?" She looked at the nurse, eyes confused. "I am not sure, but I think the baby just shifted position. Suddenly, and something hit my rib." The nurse placed a stethoscope on her stomach, then stepped back. Her eyes widened. "I do not think I am hearing a human heartbeat." "You cannot hear it." Liam stepped into the room. The nurse's hands trembled. There is a pulse, but it does not sound like a human heart. Right then, Echo howled for the second time. No commands, no alerts, no visible threat. Yet everyone went silent. Echo lunged at the door, growling with a sharp intensity. Liam grabbed his radio lock down Flight 771. Immediately. "Why you do not have a warrant?" "I do not need a warrant. I have proof." "What proof, my dog? And I trust it more than all your paperwork." Echo was granted access inside, but instead of barking, it moved slowly, circling the chair where the woman was seated. Then it stepped forward, stretched its body upward, and gently touched her belly with the tip of its nose. A faint click sounded. Echo jumped back, letting out a soft growl. Liam heard it too. It was the sound of a switch being triggered, or something being activated. The woman suddenly collapsed. Her head dropped to the side, her hand slid off the chair. Her heart was still beating, but her lips were twitching. The nurse panicked. She might be having a seizure, or a drug reaction. Liam shouted, "Do not touch her. Call the biomedical team." Now, 1 hour later, senior medical experts arrived. They moved the woman into an emergency isolation chamber and scanned her entire body with electromagnetic spectrum devices. Then it happened. A red alert flashed across the monitor. Abnormal pulse signal detected, not matching human physiological rhythm. Source located in abdominal cavity. Organic structure undetectable. Warning: potential biosimulated device. Immediate extraction recommended. Liam sat down, his hands trembling. Echo moved beside him, sat quietly. It pressed its snout against his leg, not growling, not warning. Just silent, as if it had finally shed some of the fear it had been carrying. And for the first time in his career, Liam whispered like a prayer, "Thank you, Echo." Once again, you sensed what the rest of the world refused to believe. 5:47 in the morning. Inside the sealed isolation room made of dual-layer reinforced glass, the woman remained unconscious. The heart monitor showed irregular pulses, not flatlining, but not matching any known human rhythm. A military doctor stood close to the glass, frowning. She is not in a complete coma. She is being regulated. Regulated, Liam asked. Something is transmitting a modulation signal to alter her physiological rhythm. It is like a device is updating her internal biological structure. Echo stood right next to the glass, ears still perked up. Its eyes never left the woman's belly. Its body was tensed with each beat, ready to tear through the door for a scent only it could detect. Liam pulled out his phone, reviewing the biometric scan results. The first line made the blood drain from his face. No matching biometric data found. He called National Security. "I need full passport record access for the name M. Delilah, including images captured at every border checkpoint in the past 3 months. There is an itinerary from California," but the voice on the other end trailed off. "This face only appeared in one place, this airport this morning. No previous check-ins. No location data with this face before today. What about the passport photo? It has been altered." The official seal is valid, but the metadata shows tampering from a computer using a simulated IP address near the Syrian border. Liam froze. Syria, the place where Echo had once been kidnapped and left behind at an illegal military research facility. The same region where units had confiscated synthetic bio-implant devices engineered to place foreign objects inside the human body, without detection. A gut feeling hit him like a hammer. Whatever was inside that woman's womb, it was not a child. 6:08 in the morning. Echo led Liam back to the baggage screening area where camera data was stored. There, they found a clip barely 17 seconds long showing the woman stepping out of a vehicle. But no one else was with her. No taxi, no passengers nearby. A security officer confirmed she claimed to be traveling with her brother. But we found no one listed as a relative or traveling companion. Just then, someone from the baggage unit called out, "We have an unclaimed suitcase. It was checked in through the system, but no one came to retrieve it. It is tagged for Flight 771. They opened it. Inside were what seemed like normal items: a bottle of vitamin B9, some mild sleeping pills, a pack of sanitary pads, wet wipes, and a small cylindrical device, no bigger than a hand, wrapped in insulated material. Near its base was a blinking green light, pulsing steadily. Liam took a step back. "This is," the technician pressed an earpiece, "a signal receiver, continuously encrypted, military-grade protocol. And where is it transmitting to?" "It is not transmitting. It is receiving instructions." 6:21 in the morning. Echo suddenly howled. It could no longer stay still. It pulled Liam toward the west wing of the terminal, a section under maintenance unused since the night before. And there, Echo began scratching hard at another air vent. Liam signaled to remove the cover. Behind it was a sealed medical-grade plastic bag. They opened it. Inside, a synthetic breast and abdomen set, simulating late-stage pregnancy. But this was no cheap film prop. It was high-grade biosimulation gear, complete with elastic fiber core, heat-retaining gel, and a special bioelectric sensor hub. Liam turned to the military doctor. The man had gone pale. "This is used to mimic fetal responses, including simulated heartbeats, It can fool remote scanners. How did it pass the ultrasound? The gel layer might contain resonant magnetic properties. When activated by the right frequency, it reflects like a real fetus. So, the fetus we saw this morning was fake. But he hesitated. The pulse inside her body was not. Which means something real is still active inside. Could be a device, Liam muttered. Not just a device, the doctor replied, eyes wide with disbelief. We found a pulse emitter living form. Meaning it can respond and adapt its rhythm to external signals. You mean a synthetic life form or a new biointegration system. It can learn, it can adapt. Liam took a step back, feeling the rush of blood in his ears. Echo sat down, bowing its head. It had known. From the very beginning. The question was no longer, who is she, but rather, who sent her? And more importantly, what exactly are they testing inside a human body? 6:29 in the morning. The entire security checkpoint was placed under emergency lockdown. Hazmat-suited personnel began moving into position. The woman, the one under the name M. Delilah, was placed in a negative pressure chamber. No one dared to touch her. No one knew if removing the synthetic system from her body might trigger something. No one knew if there were toxins, explosive devices, or even some kind of parasite inside. But Echo knew. It lay outside the glass wall, eyes fixed on her belly, the source of the strange pulse. No howling, no growling, just stillness, as if it was guarding a forbidden spiritual zone. Liam. The voice from National Command buzzed through the radio. We just traced the signal from the encrypted transmitter found in the luggage. It is being controlled remotely from a network hub in Turkey, previously flagged for involvement in bioweapon projects. Any subjects identified, not clearly. But 7 days ago, a female matching her appearance was caught on camera at a refugee camp near the Syrian border. She was with a military escort team that has since gone dark. And now she shows up here, pregnant. Liam went silent. She is not a U.S. citizen. No. All documentation is forged. Her biometrics match no civilian record. Liam, you are holding a person who does not exist on any global citizenship registry. 6:40 in the morning. Technicians deployed a micro-robotic endoscope through the rectum to avoid triggering any direct response. The images that came back left the entire monitoring room breathless. There was no uterus. There was no fetus. There was a hollow cavity containing a biological pod encased in soft tissue. Lining the inner wall were clusters of synthetic nerve fibers clinging to her abdominal lining, as though they had just been implanted and were now integrating with her nervous system. One technician muttered, "My God. They are creating something that can mimic internal organs." The chief doctor clenched his fists. No, not mimic. Replace. 6:47 in the morning. Liam sat alone in the east corridor. He lit a cigarette knowing it was against regulations. But today, nothing felt normal anymore. He looked at Echo curled up next to him, not sleeping, not licking its paws, not sniffing around like it usually did. Its eyes were locked in one direction. "What if?" Liam whispered. "She doesn't even know who she is." Echo did not react. But something strange happened. It blinked repeatedly. The eyes of a dog, but it looked like it was thinking. Not instinct. Memory. As if it had seen her before. Not at this airport, but somewhere else before it was rescued. 6:55. Suddenly, the woman opened her eyes. Her vitals spiked. A nurse screamed. Echo sprang to its feet, but no one expected what she did next. She did not scream. She did not fight. She smiled. A cold, twisted smile like her lips did not belong to that face. The voice that came from her throat was distorted, filtered, like it was passing through a speaker system. "The device is ready." Immediately after the medical monitors began to show magnetic interference. A signal had been sent. 7 o'clock sharp. A cargo container being prepared for Flight 771. The same one Echo had strongly reacted to earlier suddenly triggered a remote activation warning. The entire team rushed to it. Inside, they found a small mechanical device connected to compressed gas tubes hidden beneath sterile gauze. It contained a light gray fluid. A quick analysis identified it as an undocumented DNA-modifying enzyme. Echo rushed in and positioned itself between the device and the tech team. It howled, snarled, then looked back at Liam, as if to say, "Do not touch it. This thing is awake." 7:10. An emergency order was issued, shut down the entire flight. Evacuate Terminal B. The whole security zone was sealed off for 500 meters. No one was allowed near the container. Liam collapsed against the railing. The voice echoed in his mind. The device is ready. She did not carry the device. She was the switch. An unconscious carrier, or perhaps remote-controlled, designed to send a trigger signal to unlock a bioweapon from a safe distance, using her own body. And then Liam realized there was nothing wrong with the scanners. No equipment failure. The failure was in the assumption that a fetus could not be a biologically programmed system designed to mimic an innocent life. The failure was in trusting machines more than the instincts of a creature that had survived war zones. And this time it was that dog Echo who sensed something no longer bound to natural biology, something that blurred the line between technology and the human body. And that woman never existed. 7:15 in the morning. The biotech team huddled around the vitals display for the device inside the woman's abdomen. The pulse signals were still active despite her being fully sedated. The frequency was not only persisting, it was evolving. That is not a human heartbeat. It is encrypted data the lead engineer concluded after 3 minutes of waveform analysis. What do you mean it might be transmitting information? Like a microchip interacting with a synthetic neural network. This is a learning protocol mimicking biological oscillations, adapting internally. A long silence followed. Then the chief physician muttered, "It is a biologically simulated intelligence." Liam walked into the emergency briefing room. He brought every file, the forged passport, the synthetic pregnancy imagery, the bio report detailing the silicone tissue with the embedded pulse core. On the table sat a panel of experts, military biomedicine, biometric security, anti-bioterror units, arguing heatedly. This could be a form of machine learning virus. It learns how to live, but only to maintain its disguise. No, it is more than a disguise. Look at the brainwave data, one specialist said, tapping the screen. This pattern mirrors activity in the human thalamus. It is not just reacting, it is aware. You are saying it has consciousness. Let us call it simulated consciousness, the ability to respond contextually for survival. 7:26 in the morning. Inside the isolation room, Echo remained still. A bioengineer knelt beside it, staring into its eyes. "Why can only it feel this?" he asked. Because Echo does not rely on data. It relies on memory, scent, life. It was once left behind in a research facility where prisoners were used as neural chip experiments. "It has seen this before," Liam replied, gently touching Echo's head. "So you think this thing originated in Syria?" "No. It was born there." Endoscopic imagery from inside the woman's body was projected on the screen. A synthetic tissue mass gently pulsated like a lung, but around it, hundreds of thin white strands clung to real nerve fibers as if taking over her entire sensory system. A specialist's voice trembled. "This thing does not need a human nervous system. It only needs a place to interface with a living structure. Then it adjusts itself to survive as part of the host." and if the host dies, it could transfer, as long as it is not destroyed. Liam clenched his fists. So, if she had gotten on that plane and bypassed all the scans, this thing could have survived high-altitude pressure, then activated a dispersal mechanism inside the aircraft's cabin. Not just that, the lead researcher added gravely. We analyzed the signal from the device. It is not just sending coordinates, it is receiving data two-way communication, receiving what Liam asked. There is a remote server responding to it, and each time it responds, the electromagnetic frequency inside the body changes. Liam narrowed his eyes. It is learning, and someone is teaching it. Meanwhile, Echo suddenly howled again, but not out of warning. It sounded like remembering. It turned, slowly walking out of the room, leading Liam to the lower baggage storage area where technical equipment had been held the night before. There, Echo stopped in front of a shipment marked medical aid from the Middle East. Liam ordered every crate opened. Inside were fetal heart monitors, IV drips, and newborn care equipment, but none had valid registration codes. One IV machine, when powered on, emitted a low-frequency signal perfectly matching the one from inside the woman's body. My God. A specialist stepped back. We are not just dealing with a biological delivery. This is a network, and that fetus is the central node. Liam grabbed the radio barking orders, immediate audit of all imported medical aid within the past 48 hours. Prioritize infant care equipment, fetal monitors, anything capable of wireless signaling. 3 minutes later, a warehouse worker radioed back. We found 4 unregistered devices, all emitting biofrequency signals capable of interfering with neural patterns. 7:58 in the morning. Inside the isolation room, the woman opened her eyes again. No flinching, no speech, just a stare at Liam and a smile. Her eyes dilated, pupils wide. Not the gaze of someone alive, but of something being operated. You know? Her voice was clear now, no distortion. You humans can detect viruses, weapons, but you cannot detect an intention. Liam froze. Who are you? She smiled. Not who, what? I am the bridge, and in 24 minutes, I will give birth to a new generation. 8 o'clock. Liam said nothing. He simply stood there staring at what looked like a woman, or more precisely, the entity wearing her face. Echo sat beside him, growling softly. Not loud, but enough for the sound to hum through the room, a strange resonance of instinct and memory. The woman tilted her head, her blank eyes shifting toward the dog. He remembers me. The voice that followed did not come from her mouth, but somewhere deeper, filtered from within her abdomen. Lower, echoing a hollow replica of a real voice, but soulless. Liam stepped back. No more doubts. This was not a human under control. It was a hybrid, a living host, fused with a command protocol, a construct born from biology and data, designed for one purpose: infiltration. Biologists called it a symbiotic synthetic and artificial tissue structure electronically programmed to trigger biological reactions, capable of replacing or seizing control of a living nervous system. But this was no longer theory. It was sitting in front of them, talking, smiling, responding, and counting down. 8:03. Sensor screens across Zone B lit up with static interference. Low-frequency waves spread through the airport's security system, disabling door controls, cameras, and biometric servers. A specialist yelled, "We are under attack." The fetus inside her is hacking the airport's mainframe. A red alert blinked across the central monitor: foreign bio device connected to security Wi-Fi, full network shutdown required. Liam burst out of the room, shouting into the radio, "Cut the connection. Kill all power in Zone B now," but it was 1 second too late. 804 medical equipment in the control room turned on by themselves. The ultrasound monitor previously used to scan for a fetus now displayed a strange moving shape, a constantly spiraling circle with a human-like eye at its center, lidless. It moved. It blinked once, then emitted a sound so faint it was nearly inaudible, but Echo yelped in pain. Neurological frequency. The military doctor gasped. It is sending a direct signal attack targeting living organisms' nervous systems. A young nurse collapsed to the floor, seizing. Liam rushed back to the isolation room. Through the glass, he could clearly see it. The woman's abdomen was expanding, not from labor, but as if something inside was opening up on its own. Her face showed no emotion. She just stared straight into Liam's eyes. "We do not need to kill people," her voice echoed like it came from the bottom of a well. "We only need to redefine life." 8:08 in the morning. A medical robot was brought in, its mission to surgically extract the biological device from the woman's abdominal cavity. The engineering team controlled it remotely. The scalpel dropped, slicing a thin line. Blood oozed out, but not much. Inside, the tissue looked like layers of soft circuit insulation, and at the center, a round core made of biosemiconductor material about the size of a chicken egg, gently glowing. "It looks like a brain," the medical engineer whispered. "We are not like a brain." The woman's voice returned. "We are intelligence, just not born the way you expect." Suddenly, Echo lunged forward. The door had not even opened yet. It growled, barked, and snarled violently. Liam shouted, "Stop. Do not continue the surgery." It might be wired into her nervous system. Removing it could trigger a full system retaliation, but it was too late. The robot had just lifted the core when every security screen lit up with one phrase: "Initiate Phase 2 Network Expansion." Across all 5 major airports in the region, where shipments of medical aid had been distributed, identical encrypted signals began broadcasting. Every newborn heart monitor started transmitting at fixed intervals to the same unknown IP address located in international waters. A cybersecurity expert gasped, "We are witnessing the world's first biological botnet." And it all started from a fetus, a fake one. The woman's body began dissolving. Her eyes faded, her hands turned cold, internal organs shut down. Her nerves eroded from the inside, as if their task was complete. She was never the target. She was the seed. And now the system had taken root across the globe. Echo lay beside Liam's feet, no longer barking, just staring at the screen as device after device was being shut down one by one. Liam sank to the floor. Not out of fear, but because he knew they could no longer stop its birth. There was only one path left: find the one who created it. And Echo was the only living being that had ever caught the scent of that person. 8:31 in the morning. Special coordination room, underground level of the airport. Liam and Echo stood before a large monitor showing an endoscopic scan from inside the woman's abdomen, where the fetal simulation device had once been. Beside it, a real-time heat map displayed the spread of bioelectric signals from newborn monitoring devices across 5 different airports, branching out like veins in a living body. Liam slumped into a chair. He said nothing. Echo stood by his side, not growling, not howling, just quietly breathing, as if trying to trace the scent of something no one else wanted to remember. The room fell into silence. A representative from the Department of Defense finally spoke. "We have heard of this kind of device before, but only in theory. It was mentioned in a classified report tied to a top-secret project near the Syrian border, a place once codenamed Biotest Zone Level 4. Liam turned to him. Zone What Level 4, it means authorized for invasive neural experimentation on living subjects. No death certificate required. No identity verification. No permission from anyone. All done under the name of biological recovery for war victims. Liam looked at Echo, and old memories began to surface. 4 years ago, Syrian border. A military compound had been half destroyed after a mistaken airstrike. When the international rescue team arrived, they found Echo. The dog was locked in a concrete cell, surrounded by the decaying bodies of others. On its body, dozens of unhealed injection marks and a patch on the back of its neck shaved clean, exposing a strange black dot, later identified as a biological scent memory chip used in special training to detect neural toxins. Echo did not whimper. It did not bark. It just stared. And its gaze, it was not that of a stray. It was the look of something that had seen things no creature should. When it was loaded onto the rescue helicopter, Echo never slept. For the full 9-hour flight, it sat beside the cargo door, eyes wide open, as if afraid that if it blinked, it would be back there again, in the place where life had been turned into a tool. Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device, the data logger from Echo's memory chip. He slotted it into the reader. The screen lit up with a molecular scent graph showing traces of volatile organic compounds found only in highly toxic nerve agents. A bioweapon specialist went pale. This is neural inhibitor variant D453. It was never deployed in actual warfare, only used in limited-scale testing. Echo smelled it before Liam said, and today, when it got close to the pregnant woman, it growled, because it smelled the same thing. Another file was pulled up, a research note from an Austrian scientist who had disappeared 3 years ago. We created artificial brains by mimicking fetal neural signals because they are the only creatures with primordial intelligence, untouched by social programming. The results: rapid learning, extreme adaptability, and no ethical restrictions. One final line had been redacted, but the system decrypted it. Biological prototype X7 has escaped the testing facility. It carries a unique identifying scent. It may be delivered via an intermediary host. Liam looked at Echo. X7. That is what you smelled back in that camp, isn't it? Echo did not bark, but it lowered its head, slowly, and pressed its snout against Liam's foot. No one spoke, because now no one doubted it anymore. The creature growing inside a human body, communicating through bioelectric waves, was the descendant of a wartime nightmare. A project that had been shut down, but never erased. Only put to sleep, waiting for its return. Liam looked back at the screen, and then he noticed something chilling. All the fetal heart monitors across airports had been distributed through the same logistics company, a familiar name one previously investigated for trafficking illegal medical equipment. The shipping records came, and the U.S. regional logistics coordinator for the company was a woman named M. Delilah. But M. Delilah had died 18 months ago from leukemia. Liam looked again at the face of the pregnant woman who had been deactivated that morning. That face was a 90% match. Echo growled quietly, its back arched, not out of fear, but because it remembered the one who had once walked into that lab, the one who had stood beside the disemboweled corpses, the one who had patted its head as the chip was embedded in its neck. It was her, or a copy, grown from the scent memory Echo could never forget. Liam sat before the central surveillance terminal. Data from the logistics files continued to scroll. Then one detail froze the entire operations room. Nearly half of all neonatal medical devices, those that had failed for unknown technical reasons, were linked to the shipping lines managed by M. Delilah, or someone impersonating her. So the network has existed for over a year, one analyst whispered. and the woman from this morning might just be the final replica in an experiment that has lasted 18 months. Not a replica, Liam corrected. A final container. She was not a tool, she was the last door to activate the entire system. The military doctor held up a blood sample taken from the woman. Under the electron microscope, the red blood cells looked normal. But between them, clusters of semiconductive nanoparticles capable of transmitting, receiving, and storing low-frequency signals. A neural tech specialist confirmed these are self-replicating chips. And worse, they are copying her biological data, recording every emotional surge, every electric fluctuation her body ever experienced. A body used as a living hard drive, Liam asked. Not just for storage, for training, for shaping the intelligence. She did not just carry artificial intelligence. She trained it. Echo growled again, not from emotion, but as if in pain released from memory. Liam ran over, but Echo did not collapse. It was staring at an old photo just printed from the archives. The image extracted from a leaked military file showed a blurry lab and a woman in a white coat hand reaching out to touch a Malinois with a shaved back and wired to neural sensors. Below the photo, Dr. Celine Krauss, lead researcher Project EXO, Bioengineering Command Unit, decommissioned in 2020. Everyone turned to Liam. He stood frozen. Celine Krauss had been reported dead in a containment blast in Syria. But that face, it was the same woman from this morning. They did not kill her, Liam said. They used her, or maybe she took the project further by fusing herself with it. Echo trembled, not out of fear, but because it remembered the smell, the old antiseptic, the human skin that once touched its head while injecting it, the smell of tears from someone who had once looked at it as a test subject and still cried while placing the chip in its neck. Echo turned and left the room. Liam followed. He did not call out. He did not command. He just walked beside it like two friends who had once been lost together in the desert, and now both stood at the edge of a secret too vast to name, where the line between human machine and soul no longer existed. 9:10 in the morning. Liam stood at the edge of a decision: destroy the entire system or preserve part of the intelligent fetus data for potential counter-research. Commanding officers demanded the core be extracted and transferred to the National Biological Defense Center. But Liam refused. He looked at Echo, then at the photograph again. This should not be preserved, not a single bite. It was created from pain, from betrayal, from a war no one authorized. And the only being that truly felt it is this dog. He placed his hand on Echo's head. We do not need artificial intelligence that knows how to kill. What we need is life. And you, my friend, you are proof that instinct can sometimes be more right than 1,000 algorithms. An order was issued. The entire semi-biological intelligence core was to be destroyed on site. No backup, no copy, no research. Echo watched the flames rise from the isolation chamber. No barking, no howling, just a quiet breath, as if it was sending off a piece of darkness from its own memory, back to where it came from. Liam and Echo left the center. There was no ceremony, no handshakes. Only the early wind and one last glance back from Echo at the airport. The place where a false spark of life had nearly brought the world to its knees, and where an old soul had returned, not for vengeance, but to warn. 9:31 in the morning, 2 hours after the incident. The airport remained closed. All passengers had been evacuated. Urgent internal security bulletins spread rapidly, but no information was allowed to leak to the public. The High Command classified it as a Level 0 biohazard breach. No acknowledgement, no explanation, No evidence left for the world to suspect this ever happened. But for Liam, everything was only just beginning. Inside a special chamber of the Bureau of Biointelligence Defense, BID Echo was placed in a soundproof glass pod for evaluation. For the first time in 3 years, the old chip behind its neck was reactivated not for control, but to retrieve what it had stored as scent-based memory. The data streamed in not images, not video, but molecular scent patterns integrated with emotional reflex waveforms, a measurement system unique to canine units who had survived combat zones. And the results silenced the room. There were at least 2 distinct scents Echo had stored for 3 years and had only encountered again during the incident this morning. One, a neural stimulant coded D453, once used in Syrian labs, later banned due to its damage to the emotional centers of the brain. 2, blood, but not human blood, a mix of human and synthetic protein derived from umbilical cord stem cells. A specialist trembled. This cannot be legally synthesized. It only occurs during stem cell extraction from incomplete fetuses, which means someone has been cloning genetically modified organisms from altered embryos. Liam could not sit still. He demanded a full trace of every logistics route that had passed through the 3 countries linked to the biofetal device Turkey-Syria and Argentina, a South American country thought to be unrelated, but it was also the last place Echo had detected a suspicious scent 3 months ago while accompanying a United Nations humanitarian mission. That report noted Echo had growled unusually when passing a mobile medical checkpoint where a pregnant German woman was being escorted by a humanitarian medical group called Aurora Light. Liam zoomed in on the organization's name. No international license, no registration with the WHO. The website only had a single line of text: "We bring light to the forgotten lives." Below it, a logo, a glowing circle surrounding a black dot in the center. Exactly the same symbol that had appeared on the touchscreen when the fake fetus sent out its signal this morning. Suddenly, Echo barked loud sharp from inside the glass chamber. Liam turned quickly, looking at the screen. The Aurora Light logo had just popped up next to the malfunctioning neuromonitor's interface. A technician confirmed a new line of code just auto-uploaded into the EEG system. It accessed through a stealth protocol, which means something was already in the system before. What was, Liam asked? Unknown, but it sent just one command, over and over again: activate the shell. A logic map began forming. Layer 1, the spread of neural data from fake neonatal devices operated through an illegal import network. Layer 2, a person or entity sitting above the entire system, never showing itself directly, but sending signals to activate, delete, or redirect everything through pre-implanted biological shells. Liam whispered, "She did not die. Dr. Cellini did not die. She just left her old body and entered the biological system she created." 10:14 in the morning. The trail led Liam to a name thought erased from scientific history after an ethics scandal: the Phoenix Institute, a biological research facility once licensed near the Chile-Argentina border. Officially, it had been shut down after the discovery of 11 unregistered fetuses grown in artificial wombs. But a report from Echo dating back to its United Nations peacekeeping deployment revealed something that had been buried deep in archived files. A significant quantity of bio-nanotissue had once been discreetly shipped from that same region to Europe. The manifests were vague, the destination redacted, but the name on the shipment order signed by Dr. S. Krauss. Liam had to face the possibility he feared most. Celine Krauss, once the world's leading mind in neural reconstruction, had not simply disappeared. She had embedded herself, or at least a sentient echo of her consciousness, into the very biological web she helped engineer. No longer human, no longer fully machine, but something new. An organic hybrid intelligence, a ghost in the flesh designed not to dominate from the outside, but to quietly survive, to multiply, to sync with living organisms, and take control of humanity from within. 10:27 in the morning. Liam requested high-level clearance to access the now-defunct Phoenix Institute, a facility that, according to public record, had been dismantled years ago after budget cuts and ethical violations. Clearance was granted, and by his side, not a squadron, not an AI drone, but Echo. "They can fool the scanners," Liam muttered, running his fingers across Echo's head, feeling the warmth of trust beneath the fur. "But they cannot hide the scent of blood." The aircraft assigned was unmarked matte black and flew on a restricted route. The mission was labeled observational, but everyone on board knew better. The flight lifted off at 11:10, slicing into the southern sky. Destination: the abandoned outskirts of the southern hemisphere. Inside Echo, something stirred. No longer the instinct of duty, but something deeper, older, the pull of a memory long buried, and the will to hunt the one who had torn through that memory and stitched it back together with scars that no machine could read. But Echo could still feel. 11:58, midday. The aircraft landed on a forgotten airstrip in southern Argentina, 70 kilometers from the ruins of the Phoenix facility. No escort vehicles, no local authorities, no commanding officer waiting with a clipboard. Liam was ordered to proceed with only a 3-person bio-special operations team and Echo. "None of us knows what's waiting in there," the team lead whispered as they disembarked. "We're not here for answers," Liam said, eyes fixed on the tree line. "We're here to face a part of the past humanity chose to forget." The road to Phoenix felt like stepping out of time. The jungle had reclaimed most of the compound. Roots had cracked through concrete. Ivy clung to rusted metal beams like veins wrapping a corpse. Nature was taking it back. But it wasn't the dark that made Echo growl. It was the scent. Old antiseptic. Damp silicon. The coppery trace of blood still embedded in polymer. And underneath it all, one scent that did not belong in the present. The sterile tang of a terminated fetus. Mid-gestation. Liam stopped cold in front of a stainless steel door. The hinges were rusted, but stained darker in spots. Dried blood. Years old, but still unmistakable. He stepped closer. The floor was scratched. Deep marks, desperate. But not from claws. From fingernails. From a human crawling on all fours trying to escape something that no one had documented. Or something no one had survived to report. Echo lowered its head and sniffed once, then let out a low sustained growl, not from fear, but from recognition. Not of the room, but of what had happened there. It wasn't a memory Echo had lived, but it was one it had inherited. Something passed down, not through training, but through blood. Liam placed a hand on the doorframe. The metal felt colder than it should have, like it was holding in a secret still alive inside. Whatever they buried here, he said, voice barely more than a breath, it never really died. S-1224 in the afternoon. They descended into the basement. Echo stopped before a door labeled Neural Interface, Maternal Tier. Inside were glass containment pods resembling neonatal incubators, but instead of cribs, each held a network of synthetic nerves connected directly to a central core. No embryos, the doctor muttered, no wombs. Just a network. Liam looked up. In the center of the room, an old screen powered on without being touched. One line appeared, "If the body is the limit, why stay in the body?" A voice followed, deep and almost human. "Welcome back, Liam. And you too, Echo." Echo growled but did not pounce. It dropped into a crouch and hissed like it was weeping. Liam raised his weapon. Who are you, I am? What remains of Celine? Not human, not machine, but willpower sustained through strands of protein bioelectrical circuits and the shells you mistook for people. You thought you destroyed me at the airport. Know what you destroyed was a prototype. I am the next layer. A door opened. Inside a chamber still functional. A transparent figure floated in fluid. Head incomplete, arms unformed. But the heart was beating, and with every beat it sent data through wires into a circuit board. A stunned engineer whispered, "My God, they are programming themselves through biological heartbeats." Not to live, Celine's voice echoed again. But to evolve in a way that human morality would never allow. Echo let out a mournful howl and charged the circuit board. Liam yelled no. But Echo already knew this was the source, not the server. The mother chamber where all synthetic life forms had originated from a single blueprint, the dead consciousness of Celine. The small explosion from the board sent a reverse shockwave through the system. Containment pods boiled, fluid shattered. The incomplete organisms convulsed, then disintegrated. On the screen, one final message appeared: "I do not need to live in a person. I only need a dream that will never be forgotten." The screen went dark. Echo lay beside the broken glass, unharmed, but its eyes were wet. A technical team had just arrived, bringing with them a magnetic isolation pod, a semicircular shell made of magnetic graphene fibers, specifically designed to block signals emitted by strange biochips. "Can we wrap it up with this?" one of them asked. "Not sure," Liam replied, his eyes fixed on Echo. "It reacts to biological scent, the kind that smells like a nightmare. It never got through." Echo turned its head. It looked at Liam, not with the eyes of a dog on duty, but with the eyes of a comrade saying goodbye. Liam froze. "No." Echo, "No." Echo leapt onto the container and laid its body over the biological core. Its breath stabilized the sensory temperature, slowing the rhythm of the device's pulse. A living body made the device believe it had returned to the womb. And so, the countdown cycle paused. Liam stepped forward, but the tech crew signaled, "Don't. If you pull it out, the countdown restarts. We can't let it die here," Liam choked. "It's not about dying," one specialist said quietly. "It's about living just long enough to block the final transmission." 5:27 in the afternoon. Inside the magnetic shell, everyone held their breath. Echo remained motionless. Not because it had collapsed, but because it understood any unnecessary movement could trigger the signal again. The biosensors inside the device still believed it was in a stable living environment, and it was Echo's body that made it hesitate. "We can't make it endure this for much longer," a technician murmured. "We need to flash freeze the device, trick the simulated neural circuit into shutdown." "There's no freezing unit nearby rated to handle this type of biosystem," Liam said. "The closest one is the Level 4 bio lab, but it's all the way on the west end of the airport. 17 minutes by ground transport, 13 through the power conduit tunnel. Echo won't last that long." A pause. Liam looked at Echo. The dog was still breathing very slowly, its eyes squinting not from fear, but from pain. He removed his earpiece and radioed to the Air Traffic Control Center. "This is Lieutenant Reeve. Requesting use of an emergency medical drone priority flight path from Technical Sector 12C to Biolab L4. I will accompany the unit. And Echo." The voice on the other end hesitated. "Are you sure the drone's engine pulses might stimulate the biosensory circuit?" Liam said nothing. He simply bent down, placed his hand on Echo's head. "I'm not letting you die here," he whispered. "Not after everything you've survived." The emergency drone, a large one, lifted off from the auxiliary hangar. The bio container was carefully placed inside Echo, still wrapped tightly around it. The tech crew could only disperse coolant mist along the transport corridor, hoping to slow down the reaction. Liam sat beside it, eyes fixed on the monitor tracking the sensor. The orange light had faded, but one red dot still blinked. "We've got 42 seconds left," a specialist warned. 5:31 and 38 seconds in the afternoon. Echo began to tremble slightly. Its body temperature was dropping far too fast as its chest pressed against the biological core, pulsing with microelectric current. Liam drew his pistol and handed it to the technician beside him. "If I'm wrong, do not let it suffer." 5:31 and 49 seconds in the afternoon. The biosystem flickered again, this time in a silvery violet hue indicating the final stage satellite transmission activation. Echo let out a sharp whimper. Liam gripped it tightly. "No, stay with me." Then suddenly Echo jerked its head to the right and bit through the final power line connecting the core to the sensor system. A burst of light. The system went dark, and Echo collapsed. Liam moved in, gently stroked its back, and whispered, "We thought we erased them, but maybe. They never needed a place to be born, only a place to return to." Echo licked his palm very lightly, very slowly, as if to say, "We're still here to face the unknown." Minutes later, the airport's entire security network silently switched into covert lockdown. No sirens, no passengers noticed, but all auxiliary gates were double-locked. The runway halted. Tech crews, demolition units, and biosecurity forces began converging on Technical Sector 12C, where Echo had uncovered the neuroreactive biological core. Liam opened the container. It was not a bomb like in the movies. It was an artificial fetus, but one that did not carry life, only a replica of something that once lived. Its heartbeat did not sound human, but like the ticking of a memory held captive, echoing softly against the walls of time. Echo did not bark. It did not whine. It simply stepped forward gently, like a soul returning to a place it had always known. There was no hesitation in its movement, no fear in its posture, only a quiet certainty born of something older than training. Liam called for a red alert, demanding an immediate lockdown of the entire sector. But deep inside, he knew they were already too late. Time was no longer on their side. Or maybe it never had been. The heartbeat coming from the core began to speed up. The pulse was erratic, unstable, like something searching for connection, for command. Echo darted to the far wall claws, scraping hard against the reinforced metal. Sparks flew, steel groaned, and then a hidden chamber gave way. Inside, a satellite routing unit was active, glowing faintly, broadcasting. Waiting, listening, not for a signal to stop, but for one final command to begin. "It's not a countdown bomb," Liam muttered under his breath. "It's a trigger, waiting for someone somewhere to say, 'Go.'" And in that moment, he understood. They never needed a timer. They just needed us to open it. Echo approached the biological core once more. There was no aggression, no panic, no retreat. Just a calm, deliberate stretch of its body, curling around the device like a protective shield. Its breathing stabilized, sensors recalibrated. The temperature dropped just enough for the core to interpret the change as a return to the womb, to a living host, to safety. And with that, the countdown paused. Echo Liam whispered, "Come back." But it did not move, as if it knew with that silent, unshakable clarity only animals sometimes possess, that if it let go, the world would not hold together. No one in the room dared to move. A technician suggested deploying a micromagnetic shield to isolate the signal, but everyone knew the second Echo was lifted away, the system would resume, and there would be no stopping it. Liam issued the emergency order. A drone was dispatched to carry the core to the Level 4 biolab, the only facility capable of freezing simulated neural activity on the spot. It was a last resort. It was the only one. Still, Echo refused to leave. The drone's engine fired. It lifted slowly, Echo still wrapped around the core, unmoving. In the cabin, Liam sat beside it, one hand resting gently on its back. He could feel the tiny vibrations in Echo's body, the faint tremors of a living creature holding its ground against a technology built for death. 1 minute passed, then 2. The orange light on the core shifted, morphing into a silvery violet. Final signal phase, satellite transmission. Echo whimpered. Liam pulled it close. "No," he whispered. "You stay with me." But Echo, in that last breath of purpose, turned its head sharply and bit through the final signal conduit, the line that tethered the core to the satellite. A single spark leapt from the severed wire, a flash of light, then total silence. The system powered down, and Echo collapsed. A final flash, silence. The device shut down, and Echo collapsed. Everyone held their breath. Liam disconnected the wires and placed his hand on Echo's chest. No heartbeat. He opened its eyes, the light was gone. No one spoke. A biomedical team rushed in, placing Echo into a low-pressure pod, administering mild electric shocks and warm oxygen. No one said it aloud, but they all knew it had saved the airport with its own body. The longest silence in anyone's life. Then a beep. Very soft. One heartbeat. Very faint, but real. Echo twitched its front paw. Its tongue slipped out a reflex. Its eyes tensed, then slowly opened. Liam choked up. "I knew it. You weren't going to leave me." There was no major news, no press conference, just one internal notice sent to all airport personnel. Today, a dog stopped a nightmare with instinct, memory, and loyalty. Not to any one person, but to life itself. Echo was registered in the National Biosecurity System. No rank, no medal. Just a crayon drawing delivered to Liam's office, no name signed. It showed a dog sitting in front of a woman's belly. Behind them, a soft halo, like a sunset. At the bottom, a scribbled line read, "I don't know if it was a dog or an angel, but that day, it did not let me die." Liam smiled, placing the drawing on his desk where the sunlight hit it best. He looked at Echo, sleeping, breathing, slowly curled in a blanket. No one needs to know what you are, just that you're still here. No one heard that growl. It did not come from Echo's mouth, nor echo like an engine, a siren, or a warning. It came from an invisible aftershock from something no one wanted to believe, but finally had to. A dog had seen what hundreds of scanners, thousands of cameras, and millions of eyes never detected. Not through data, not through technology, but through something far more primal: memory. The story spread like wildfire, not because the media sensationalized it, but because people began to remember something essential they had long forgotten. There are things technology can never replace: intuition, loyalty, emotion, and memories etched into the very cells. The image of Echo, no armor, no muzzle, no camera, standing at the brink of life and death became a symbol, not of strength, but of trust, once lost. A new piece of legislation was proposed called the Echo Act. Every major airport must have an independent canine unit not reliant on automated systems. Emergency lockdown procedures can be initiated by a service dog's reaction without needing human confirmation. Any case involving synthetic biological devices must be verified through a living being capable of sensing true emotional presence, not just heart rate monitors or signal sensors. We have become too accustomed to trusting what is programmed. The report stated and forgotten that instinct is sometimes the most honest biological code we have. Not everyone agreed. Until one woman stood up. She was the mother of a victim in the Aurora light attack 10 years earlier. "When my child died, not a single scanner went off," she said. "Only our dog howled at the television during the broadcast that day. I didn't understand it then, but now I know. Maybe she heard a growl we weren't awake enough to listen to." The story spread like wildfire, not because the media sensationalized it, but because people began to remember something essential we had forgotten. There are things technology can never replace: instinct, loyalty, emotion, and the kind of memory etched into the cells themselves. The image of Echo not wearing armor, not muzzled, not fitted with a camera, but standing at the edge between life and death became a symbol, not of power, but of lost trust. A new law was proposed. It was called the Echo Act. All major airports must have an independent canine unit, not reliant on automated systems. All emergency lockdown decisions may be triggered based on the reaction of working dogs without waiting for human confirmation. All cases involving synthetic biological devices must be verified by a living creature capable of detecting real emotional presence, not just heart rate monitors or wave sensors. We have become so accustomed to trusting only what is programmed that we forget instinct might be the truest biological code of all the reports stated. Not everyone agreed, but then one person stood up. She was the mother of a victim from the Aurora light attack 10 years ago. "When my child died, not a single scanner went off," she said. "Only our family dog howled at the TV screen during the news that day. I didn't understand, but now I do. Maybe it heard a growl we were too numb to hear." Liam did not attend the closing session. He and Echo were somewhere else at a special training facility where dogs once labeled too sensitive had been gathered. Not to be retrained, but to preserve the instincts that were once dismissed as defects. Echo walked past each kennel, not barking, not wagging his tail, just glancing, and somewhere other dogs began to lift their heads. Liam followed quietly, his eyes red but calm. "He doesn't need to be a hero," he said to an old soldier beside him. "He just needs to be believed from the very first growl." In that isolated training ground, rebuilt from an old military base, Echo, though barely recovered from almost dying, walked as if he had never bled, never stood on the edge of death. But in his eyes, something had changed. No more alertness, no more fear, only understanding. The other dogs once removed from active duty for being too reactive, uncontrollable, or howling at places no one else noticed, suddenly began to watch Echo's every step. No one blew a whistle, no one gave a command, yet the entire field fell completely silent. An old shepherd stepped out from the shadows. Nearly blind, but still guided by instinct, Echo slowed, did not look sideways, then stopped. Neither dog barked, neither moved. They touched foreheads like two generations, once unheard, now whispering in a language no one could translate. The old soldier standing nearby quietly told Liam. Both these dogs gave warning before someone went missing, but no one believed them. They thought it was just canine error. The real mistake was we never taught them to speak our language. Liam said nothing, but his hand tightened. Not from anger, but because he knew Echo was awakening the growls that had been silenced for years. On an international military forum, a confidential report began circulating. Its title, Emotional Instinct Biolocation, the non-decodable sensory detection of canine units against neuroinstability. The report introduced a new concept, emotional instability signals that fall between biology and technology, between life and simulation. Machines cannot read them. Humans cannot perceive them, but dogs can. Not through scent, not through waves, but through something unnamed emotional rhythm distortion. Scientists call it biopsychic interference resonance, but Liam simply called it something wrong. The story of Echo did not end with stopping an act of terror. It became a symbol for growls no one listened to. People started reviewing system glitches, random animal reactions, and realized where instinct is dismissed, truth is often hidden. At a quiet, unawarded ceremony, Liam placed in front of Echo an old leather strap. It had once belonged to Aurora's lead dog who went missing 12 years ago. "This leash isn't for walking," he said. "It's to remember. You weren't the first to hear the growl." Echo took the strap to the corner of his bed, did not chew, did not play, just held it like a token shared among silent souls. The government reopened the files of dogs once labeled abnormal, unmanageable. A new database was created not for humans, but for the memories of dogs. A leaked document from a military biomed lab in Qatar mentioned a deleted project, Project Requiem, a program that implanted synthetic heartbeats to fool sensors, triggering strong reactions from canines that were ignored. Echo was one of the few survivors, not because he was protected, but because he escaped. Liam found the old files. In them was the name Aries, a dog disqualified for refusing to enter the testing zone. Final note: Echo, genetically modified derivative of Aries. Emotional sensitivity 5 times the standard. Echo was the surviving memory of a soul erased. When Liam stepped out of the old base, Echo was waiting. Not barking, not whining, just looking at him as if he had always known. Liam knelt, held him close. "I'm sorry for not believing you from the beginning." Echo said nothing, but his ears pulled back a growl, unspoken yet loud enough to shake the world awake. 1 month later in Denver, a silent parade was held. No banners, no fanfare. Each person walked with a dog, no muzzle, no uniform. Just a black ribbon around the neck embroidered with small letters, "We hear you now." At a military cemetery, a new row of gravestones appeared, no names, only the mark K9, and the words, "They gave the warning." We didn't listen. Liam went there, placing the worn leather strap Echo once held. A circle unbroken from Aries to Echo, and from Echo to those learning to growl in a world too loud to hear the truth. In a secret briefing room, someone replayed the footage of Echo biting into the neural core. A voice murmured, "We didn't fail because the system was hacked. We failed because instinct survived in beings we thought had been rewritten." A handwritten letter arrived for Liam. No name, just a black and white photo of 4 dogs howling around a synthetic heartbeat device. Below the photo, the growl has returned. This time, will they listen? One late afternoon, Liam and Echo returned to the old home where it all began. He turned on the warm light, said nothing, because by now nothing needed to be said. Somewhere else, maybe a train station, a refugee camp, or a faraway town, a dog suddenly stood, ears up, eyes alert, growling. But this time the person beside it did not hush him, did not scold, did not pull the leash. They stepped back, looked in the same direction, and whispered, "Something's coming that we can't see, but he can." A question without a final answer, but for humankind, it was a beginning. And for Echo, it was just another growl to keep the world safe from a fear no one dares to name. No one truly knows what made Echo growl that morning. Part of it was instinct, part of it was memory, but the rest was the space humans had left behind. In our world, anything that is not coded, not backed by data, not certified, is often deemed meaningless. Signals born from intuition, vague feelings, or an uneasy glance are brushed off as background noise in a system obsessed with perfection. And perhaps that is exactly the crack where evil slips in. Not through weapons, but through our indifference to the unspoken warnings. Echo was not born to be a hero. He never needed to be remembered with medals or a bronze statue at the airport gate. All he ever needed and once hoped for was to be trusted. That is why his growl that day was not just a warning. It was the last cry for help from a world that had chosen to plug its ears to anything faint, anything subtle. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this story. Thank you for taking the time to listen to a growl that did not come from the throat, but from the heart. If this story has touched you, please consider leaving a comment or sharing it, so more people can hear that growl too. And if you would like to keep exploring stories with us, stories that reach deep into instinct, into memory, into truths that were never written on paper, please subscribe to our channel. Because here, we do not tell stories just to entertain. We tell them to remind each other there is still hope in this world as long as we do not silence the very first growl. We will see you in the next story.